got my travel channel, as well as Spreadshirt, all that sort of stuff. I appreciate the support in those various places. Thank you so much. And now let's get started. So,
I've been looking all
yes,
over
today we're going to be
for
giving a
you.
little love to the original PlayStation. Very hard system to not recognize. It is one of the most successful systems ever produced. Sony's original little dream machine, as it were. This is, despite its massive success, though, Sony actually didn't do that many variations of it, at least not externally. We'll talk about that in a second. But basically, there was the original gray box, as I'm sure most of us are familiar with, and then later they would go on to make the PS1 Slim, which also had a version that had a screen, but that was detachable. So essentially, they just kind of made the two models. It is kind of bizarre how few variations of the original PlayStation there are. They never even did like the Nintendo 64 Funtastic line with a whole bunch of different colors or anything. They did do, and to be in all fairness, there were a few special editions, but most of them were essentially unattainable. Things that were like one-offs that were meant for individual developers. It's like here's a one-of-one gold version or stuff like that. There are a few other ones, like there's the 10 million units sold version. I know that Sony did that not that long ago with the PlayStation 4, but they did that with the original PlayStation. How many of those they produced, I'm not sure. And then there's odd things like the Net Rosie machine, which was essentially a development kit that was sold to the public, sort of. That's another weird one. That is not what this machine is, by the way. That's a completely different story we're not going into. But the thing is, despite that few different variations, they actually did a ton of variations under the hood, which will actually come back to change it. So that's why if you ever have a stack of like PS1s, which is not impossible, back, like some have composite ports and some don't, and the revisions they made under the hood, massive. But externally, they just didn't make that many different versions. So what do we have here? What are we talking about today? This is the PlayStation debugging station. Now, what is the purpose of a debugging station? It is worth noting, this is not something Sony has actually sold to the public. You weren't really ever meant to have this. So, technically, it's not something that was ever released that could be considered a special edition, but hey, we've got access to it, so I thought it'd be fun to talk about all the same. At first glance, it just looks like a limited edition PlayStation, because it's basically exactly the same design, but it's green, right? That's really cool. But the purpose of the debugging station is essentially what's in the name, it's the debugging. So the idea was, if you were a developer, you were actually a Sony yourself, or if you were at some company like EA or IDOS or whoever back in the day, you would be sitting there and you're like working on your game, and you go, okay, alright, I have the latest build of it, now I need to test it. Well, you're not going to do that on emulation, that doesn't make sense. You should be trying to run it on the original hardware, duh. So you're going to try and run it. Now, the problem is, obviously, for piracy reasons, the stock models are not designed to be able to just take your burn disk and try out your prototype of your game and just start running it. That's the whole point of anti-piracy measures. That's why they built debugging stations. These things are not only region-free consoles right out of the box, they also are designed to be able to play burn essentially unsigned code, so the developers could go ahead and be like, okay, here's the latest build of my game, like pop it in, let's take a look. Okay, that's a bug. Okay, she's like yellow when she's supposed to be white, or whatever. Like the character models are wrong. They just run all that and they test it, make notes. That's the whole point of this machine, a debugging station. Now, Sony actually made a couple of different versions of this. The original ones were actually blue. And as I understand it, I don't have access to one of the blue ones, but as I understand it, that was the earlier model they were using for the first couple of years, but as Sony kept making additional revisions under the hood in the PlayStation, they had to make certain changes in the debugging station as well. It is my understanding that this model, the green one, is actually the better of the two in the sense that it's more reliable and capable of running more stuff, but I don't have the two directly to compare to actually verify that. That's just kind of what I read online, but I found that kind of interesting. So, as you see here, I've got 3 games all set up. This is Model 2, the North American version. It absolutely will play that, no problem. I tried it. That over there is Runner's Heaven, which is a really cool Japanese exclusive. If you're a Sega guy like I am, this is actually basically the sequel to Gunstar Heroes on the Sega Genesis. It's just far well less known. There was actually another Gunstar Heroes that I was years later, but this one's kind of the one in between. I don't know if it's canonically connected, but it's essentially maybe not like spiritual successor. Continuity, but it is essentially a sequel to that. It feels like it's very cool. And the last one over there is a game called Chaos Blade, which is a European release, which was essentially a really cool Resident Evil game. To be fair to Chaos Blade, it also came out in Japan, but that's the European version. This machine, standard, out of the box, will play all 3 of those, no problem whatsoever, which I think is really cool. I mean, we will show it to you in a moment here. But before we do that, I do want to give you a little history on this particular console. Now you might be like, wow, you have a debugging station? That's really cool. You want to sell it? It ain't mine. Actually, where this came from, this was loaned to me very temporarily from a guy in my Discord whose name is Sunshine. You can go in my Discord, join it. It's a really fun place. There's a lot. You want to talk obscure consoles and stuff. We talk about it all the time. There's a lot of combined, like, we got a guy in there who has the CD Sega Genesis. Yeah, even I don't have that. Anyway, so in that environment, he was like, oh yeah, no, I have this. And he found it, it's even more bizarre. This is a PAL version. This is the European one. This isn't even a North American one. Now, why does that matter? Not extensively, in the sense that it's a region-free system. It did use a 240-volt power supply, and it outputs 50 hertz. Being a smart guy that he is, he actually just kind of took the power supply out of a standard PS1 and put it in the debugging station so that at least the power supply would totally work here. So the only issue with it is it outputs 50 hertz in North America, but honestly with modern day HDMI toys, I'm just using some junk cables. I got the pound cable set up here and everything. It's just for display purposes, but to its credit, it actually solves that problem so display normally. So this is a PAL unit that Sunshine found locally in some store in West Virginia. Yep, the weird things you can find on this planet. But yeah, he found it there, bought it, and he loaned it to me, and here we go. So yeah, it's a really cool unit, I think. I don't know how it got out from mainland Europe to West Virginia, and then ended up in his possession, but hey, that's really cool. So what we're going to do with it, I thought I'd show it to you in action very briefly, and I'll show it to you for its original intended purpose. Now again, I remind you, the point of it was to take prototype unfinished games, run them on the system, and take a look at them. So with that logic in mind, I'm going to fire up all our powers here with this little device, and let the monitor up to the TV. Let that boot up there. Fire up the PlayStation, and alright, so you see that initial Sony screen that I'm sure you guys are very familiar with. Now here's one change you will actually see. Is that after it goes from this screen, it goes to this one, you'll notice at the bottom it actually misses any sort of tag. There's an additional subtitle there about Sony Computer Entertainment, and so on and so forth. Sony Computer Entertainment America or Europe or Japan, that tag is just completely gone, which is standard on the debugging stations. I'm not entirely certain why, but it's probably because it's a region-free system. And it goes past that, and you're going to see it most familiar. Oh, this contains Capcom, what is this? Oh, I don't know. Something's firing up there in my. Oh, look at that! Biohazard 2 sample version. Now you can see the 2022. This is an updated build. What this is actually Resident Evil 1.5. For people who don't know the original story, Resident Evil 2, when it was originally developed, it got to a certain point where Capcom said, "This isn't the game we want." Fine. Jim Carr again. Dennis, first of all, congratulations on being Genius ERP. Now, some of our audience don't know the finer points of how Genius ERP helps manufacturers. Can you explain, for example, what is an ERP?
Well, Genius ERP allows you always talk that streamlines your business. Then you go home and do something.
Let's see. And what common manufacturing struggles does Genius ERP fix?
Well, any accurate job costing evaluation, 92, that's all just like that.
Sounds bad.
No, that's very bad. Never do that. Never. You're stupid if you do that. Just supply your own thing.
Dennis, how about on the shop floor? How does Genius ERP help there?
Well, the shop will slash your production time like that.
Oh, man. How about scheduling?
Scheduling, you might be tricked out by a bad scheduling. But if you do Genius ERP scheduling, your show's available on time.
Great to ask. How about engineering?
Engineering is production. Bring together cities. And they make sure that they work in the same direction like that.